So it's time to discuss European football as the first leg matches in the UEFA Champions League knockout playoff phase ended a short while ago. Among the encounters, a mouth-watering clash featuring the last two champions of the competition, title holders Real Madrid at Manchester City's Etihad Stadium. And we have those highlights now.
Well, it's hat and scarf weather rather than the... It will be De Bruyne. This ball here for Haaland. And Asensio at his back. Here's Grealish. Well, Guardiola. Haaland, is this the moment? Oh, it is! Twice the joy. Vinicius Junior. Oh! City have fumbled bodies back, but there's lots of space for Mbappe. Vinicius Junior's got the better of Rico Lewis. Ceballos. And Valverde took the low road. Well, Mbappe's free! And scores! Time stood still for a moment.
Yeah, it's certainly been coming. It's from a really poor free kick. They get possession back. It's Dani Ceballos who just spots the run of Mbappe in between the Manchester City defence that switched off. And it's not the cleanest strike or the cleanest connection that he's ever going to make.
A chance here for Mbappe. That's for the flag, but it kisses. Oh, beautifully finding Lewis, and Haaland in there.
Attack.
Rico Lewis finding Foden. Only needs half a yard. Oh! And the referee points. The challenge by Ceballos on Foden. And Manchester City have a glorious opportunity from the penalty spot. The spell well and truly broken. And Erling Haaland restores Manchester City's lead.
A big pressure situation. Seen him take them recently in the Premier League and miss.
Vinicius Junior has stolen it. The race is on. And Bellingham coming in! Scores! In sight of their first away victory against Manchester City.
Such poor defending again from Manchester City. Kovacic and Lewis. Vinicius Junior is so quick, but Ederson, what's he doing again? He's in no man's land. The goalkeeper's cost Manchester City another goal. Rico Lewis isn't quick enough. Ederson doesn't read the through ball. Vinicius...
Champions League. Well, we expected drama, and didn't we get it?
So 3-2 the victory for Real Madrid in this first leg encounter away from home. So they set themselves up now for a spot in the next round. Our football analyst Brent Sancho joins us to discuss what happened in this match. Brent, you said previewing the game yesterday that it's almost impossible to stop Real Madrid's offence. They took an hour to score today, but they got 3 goals and they proved you right.
Yeah, certainly so. The front four for Real Madrid has always been a threat, and we saw that today. I don't think necessarily, Lance, it was the best outing for the front four, but because of the levels and of course because of the quality that all four present, they're always going to be a threat, even if they're playing at 60-70%, and that's exactly what we saw today. I think the pick out of the four today was certainly Vinicius Junior, who looked at danger every single time he took his man on. But nevertheless, you'd have to say, despite the fact that Real Madrid does have such talent moving forward, the goals that Manchester City gave up at the end were simply schoolboyish at best and amateurish at worst.
Yeah, I thought so. Looking at that, so Pep, I would suggest would have some heated exchanges in the dressing room.
Well, it's a problem that's plagued Manchester City throughout the season. I mean, as much as this has been one of their better outings, certainly in the first 35 minutes or so, I thought they were looking as close as the Manchester City rule as they've looked for quite some time. But when you make the sorts of errors and mistakes that you make at the end with Ederson, first with a missed clearance, and of course the follow-up with a poor save, and then secondly when you make the kind of mistake that of course, conversation with Rico Lewis. It's as a manager, it's so frustrating. I mean, how many times can you come in and yell and scream and kick? But when players are doing that, it's just very, very frustrating, because it doesn't matter how you set up tactically. If you're going to give goals away, you're never going to win football games.
Yeah, and even the numbers, Brent, speaks for itself. Saw the stat on BBC, of course. City, it's the first time since 2018 that they lost the Champions League match after, leading when it was half-time. So, I mean, the numbers speak for itself, but it's as if, and I'm going to bring it down to fatigue. You can correct me or you can disagree. But in the second half, they looked extremely tired. It's as if the City that we saw in the first half was not there in the second half.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of conversation about the fatigue factor as it relates to Manchester City. It was a bright start, as we've mentioned, in the first 35 minutes, and they did run a bit cold at the end. I do think, however, that pivotal midfield battle at the end was won by Ceballos and Camavinga, despite, again, the sharp start that they would have had. But Real Madrid threatened throughout the game, and that's a fact. We talked about the front four. There were opportunities, of course, Mbappe with that glorious one coming close to the end of the first half. And you always felt that every time that either one of that front four or the combination of all four got into favourable positions, that they would score or have a good shot on goal. You didn't feel that way with Manchester City. Of course, Erling Haaland producing 2 goals at the end of the night, but they won't cut an edge in their final third. So, yes, you may put some of the individual errors down to fatigue, but it's just been happening so often. You wonder if it's a bit of confidence as well, and just a team that's lost their way a bit.
Yeah, and you speak about confidence. I can only imagine what happens in that second leg where their confidence is concerned, because they're not even playing at home in that second leg. They're heading across to Real Madrid's territory, which can even make it more difficult.
Yeah, a lot of what Manchester City does and what makes Manchester City such a formidable team to play against is the fact that they do things like second nature. It's instinctual. Everything that they do, they play quickly. Their thought process is a lot quicker than most teams, and that's why they're such a ball-dominant team. When you're struggling for confidence as a player, you start second-guessing yourself. Those one-time passes now becomes 2 touches. The early vision, the turning of the neck and seeing plays 3, 4, 5 plays down the road, it's not happening anymore. And the moments that you normally create, those good moments that a confident team and confident players produce, become less and less. And that, of course, erodes in the way that you do things. And I think that's what we've seen over time. It's an eroding process as it relates to their confidence. Every single game that they lose in this sort of manner starts to take a chip away from their confidence. So that Manchester City that we've come so used to, that plays with a bravado and such a huge area of confidence, is deflating slowly but surely, and it's now becoming a very ordinary football team.
Yeah, and a lot of credit goes to the difference maker, Jude Bellingham. Last season in La Liga, Jude Bellingham was the talk of our segments, Of course, he took up the mantle, he led when it came to goal scoring. Brilliant stuff from him, of course, had to adjust with the introduction of Kylian Mbappe. But one of the things about Jude is he has been stepping up, despite the position that he has to play.
Yeah, it's taken him some time, and that goes along with Mbappe and Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo to really get used to each other. And now you're starting to see more glimpses, more signs of that front four doing a lot better, and in particular Jude Bellingham. One thing Mariah, you will get from Jude is that work rate, that effort, that extra push, and that strong will and desire to win football games. He makes it his personal interest to win his 1v1 battles, and then he adds the quality that most players with all of those tool sets that I just mentioned probably don't have. He has a tremendous amount of quality, and we've seen it now coming out much more regularly, and you have to give him a lot of credit for the third goal, because that could have easily been a situation where the ball was cleared, but he chased and he harried and he made sure that he followed the play, and that's why he was ahead to be able to tap it in, because that's the type of player. He epitomizes what you want from a box-to-box midfielder, what you want from a midfielder that you expect to break lines, and that's everything that Jude Bellingham is, and he deserved this goal today.
Yeah, not a lot going right in Pep Guardiola's life at this stage, Brent Sancho. I want you, though, to just track back a little bit and talk us through the City setup today with the back four and John Stones starting in that holding midfield role.
I think he was looking for a little bit more balance than he'd have, and certainly some more midfield stability. They've obviously struggled since Rodri's department, and someone that could be that fulcrum that switches the point of attack quickly and does have defensive capabilities. And John Stones arguably is as close as you can come to what Rodri gives Manchester City. And of course, playing in that back four, it meant as well that there was some cover to the centre halves when they had to make their challenges, and you would see in the game that he avoided most of the 1v1 situations at the back. But that being said, Ricardo, they still did provide a threat in the first 35 minutes, and the goal came from one of the defenders making a line break in Ron Guardiola and was able to set up Haaland. And that's the type of football we have come to used to see from Manchester City, and Pep would have been very happy because there was defensive stability. They were winning their midfield 1v1 encounters, and then he had defenders searching going forward. So the start was great. Everything was great about the start, but of course, once the goal scored by Real Madrid came in, we saw that the Manchester City team started to dip in confidence, and more importantly, dip in their confrontational line, and eventually giving away the game to Real Madrid.
Yeah, you know, Brent, Mariah asked you about whether the Manchester City team looked a little bit tired in that second half, but this has become consistent now throughout the course of this UEFA Champions League season, because City have lost their last 4 matches, I think, where they have taken the lead, or 4 matches this campaign where they have taken the lead in the UEFA Champions League. That has to be a massive cause for concern.
Yeah, it is a big cause of concern, because you know normally when City goes ahead, the City that we've come to love, they normally go out and close games. They were very good at closing off games and winning football matches. Now, when a goal scores, you can see not just us as analysts and people that are looking on, but you can see it in the players. There's a body language and a persona that comes when that situation arises. The lack of confidence, as we did mention, and just the lack of effort to try to stop it from happening, because it just seems to feel, they just seem to look like they're resigned in the fact that they are going to lose this game, which for anyone that's watching this and have known City over the years, it's just very, very difficult to first A, understand, and B, to watch, because we're so used to them, as I mentioned, being the aggressors. And it just, any team that plays Manchester City now would feel that you just need to get one back on this lot, and you would have every opportunity to get back in the game. That's a far cry from the Pep Guardiola team that we've come used to seeing. Yeah, very much the case, Brent. When you're just not as good as you used to be, when you're just not in as good a form as you have been in the past, then you lose games in so many different ways. And I guess we can stay here and nitpick around a lot of the issues, but the fact is this City team is just not what we have become accustomed to since Pep Guardiola took over. Well, I tell you what, when it comes on to the Champions League, and Mariah makes the point all the time, you can never count out Real Madrid, and you can never count out Carlo Ancelotti, who has been speaking post-game of this first leg. And guess what? He's been speaking specifically about Jude Bellingham, who scored the winner, while he looks at the tie overall.
Game, always dangerous, always involved in play. It was a top game for him. We have to stay calm. It's only the first half. Everything can happen at the Bernabeu. And we have a lot of respect to this team. And so we have to prepare well the game, as we prepared well this first half.
Carlo Ancelotti there, the Real Madrid boss. Brent, it's not, you know, the regular thing when you have 5 goals in a game and you point to a defender, but I want you to assess the performance today of Raúl Asensio for Real Madrid.
Yeah, we saw him on the weekend against Atletico Madrid, where I thought he had an outstanding performance for Real Madrid. And again today, it's when you looked at it, there was a close-up between Haaland and himself, and you could actually see the size difference. And as a centre-half, that could be quite intimidating. But again, they talked about the steeliness that Rudiger brings to that Real Madrid backline, and his departure may mean that that has gone. But certainly, give Asensio credit. He certainly brought that. He read the play well. He's a pacey centre-half that is not afraid to put his foot in and make the tough challenges. And despite the fact that it was always going to be a difficult night in a makeshift defence that was even further makeshift because Valverde had to play at the right back position, he stood out, and he stood out as a player that was able to stand for the most part Manchester City offence. And maybe this is a player that they can now look to with the likes, of course, of the injured players to come back to integrate into the team, and they don't necessarily have to dip into the transfer market, because the 2 games that I've seen from him in this short period of time has been excellent.
Here's the $1,000,000 question, Brent Sancho. Is this tie over?
I would say so. And you know,
I'm
I would
shocked.
say so simply based on, I think the frailty that is Manchester City, I just don't see them coming back for it. Every weekend I watch the sport, and I hope they do, because we love seeing them play. But I just don't think it's going to happen for them.
Yeah, it will take something special for them to go to the Bernabeu and overturn this 3-2 scoreline. But hey, Pep Guardiola, he'll be trying to go into his magic bag of tricks, and they'll need every bit of it if they're to have a chance going forward. Juventus 2-1 over PSV earlier today as well, Brent. Good result for them. They were playing at home, so they take that 1-goal advantage going into the second leg away.
Yeah, it's a terrific result for them. They've been so patchy in what they've done throughout the season. They've had one consistent Mwani up front. But outside of that, it has been a very, very inconsistent season for them. I think they would take a lot of solace in this result in particular. They had to work for it in a strong PSV team, particularly in the middle of the park, where they have and do most of their good work with Schuttmann and Verman in the middle of the park. But you would think, in the balance of the game, and when you look at the game statistically and just from the eye test as well, that certainly PSV will have a lot to say in the second leg, because it was not all Juventus for the 90 minutes plus. And I think when they go back to Holland, they are going to have to be certainly on their A game to close off this tie.
Okay, Brent, we're going to leave it there, and we'll chat again tomorrow, I think. So, thanks for joining us here on our recap of today's matches in the UEFA Champions League knockout phase.
Have a great one, guys.
Yeah, just to recap the full results of what happened today in the UEFA Champions League knockout playoffs. First leg matches these. Remember, they'll have their return games coming up. We've dealt with the Real Madrid 3-2 win over Manchester City. Paris Saint-Germain with 2 goals from Ousmane Dembele, 3-0 over Brest. The American Weston McKennie had a goal for Juventus in their 2-1 win over PSV Eindhoven, and Borussia Dortmund were 3-0 winners at Sporting. And coming up on Wednesday, Club Brugge at home to Atalanta, Benfica travelling to Monaco, Celtic at home to Bayern Munich, and Milan will be travelling to face Feyenoord. All those matches coming up on Wednesday. We go to break, still more to come on the SportsMax Zone. Back in a moment.